A complex adaptive system, to make a long story short, is a number of nodes that are relatively autonomous, that interact with each other in ways that are sometimes unexpected. The body is a complex adaptive system. The various organs are subsystems within the system, and if one organ is not performing correctly, the other organs of the body try to adapt to the need, and hopefully the body, remains healthy, not because everything remains the same, but precisely because the parts are able to accommodate and change in relationship to each other, and more importantly, in relationship to the environment in which the body exists. The organization is a complex adaptive system. The environment is complex and adaptive. In other words, it changes. And modern healthcare organizations exist in multiple complex adaptive environments. The political environment, the economic environment, the social environment, the ecological environment, so on and so forth. And so, in my opinion, the goal ought not necessarily be continuous improvement, but rather, in my opinion, continuous adaptation to change. Industrial psychology was used, and perhaps still is, to get as much work as possible out of an employee. And if it is used to excess, it becomes very unreasonable, because beyond a point, it's time to stop squeezing out an additional ounce of productivity, in my opinion at least. Continuous improvement to me suggests also this goal that will never be achieved, and thereby is potentially dysfunctional in its pursuit. However, it's like trying to satisfy someone who will never be satisfied. No matter how good you do, someone says, well, I think you can do a little better. I think you can do a little better. Maybe that's not what the authors and others mean by continuous improvement, but that's what I at least read into it. I do understand continuous adaptation to a dynamic environment. That will never end, because unless something awful happens, and the world ceases to change, there will always be need for adaptation. And so organizations will continually be scanning their environments and making adjustments to their internal parts relating to each other in response to the changing environment. Patterns of payment will change. The needs of patient will change. Populations will grow old and then perhaps grow younger as generations pass away and new generations are born. New conditions may arise. Old conditions may go away or become less critically a problem to our society. New technologies become available. All of these changes in the environment of healthcare organizations call upon the healthcare organization to continually adapt. And if you want to call that continual improvement, so be it. I would call it continual adaptation. In order for this to work, the culture must and the leaders of the organization must be transparent and honest in their dealings with others, not manipulative, not coercive, because because trust is not possible without transparency and honesty. It's not that every stakeholder has to be happy. It's that every stakeholder needs to know that they can trust others in this environment, and particularly those who are in positions of leadership. The authors are advocates for large nonprofit hospitals in the traditional sense, and they don't seem to particularly want to pick up on the idea of networks of strategic alliances. They refer to the cottage industry of healthcare as if that's not a good thing or could not be a good thing. I don't know that we have to continue. I don't know that there is not a way forward. I think there may be a way forward that is involved with the loose coupling of small organizations rather than the maintenance of these large general nonprofit hospitals. Because networks of strategic relationships can be adaptive and they can work. The only difference is that the connections between the partners are weak. When the connections become strong, then essentially you have an organization. When the connections are weak, you have a network of strategic allies. The problem I see with the network approach, the cottage industry approach, if you will, is that nobody is going to intentionally create small organizations, well, they may not, that will specialize in areas of care that are hopelessly difficult or costly to provide to populations of people who cannot pay for them. The large traditional hospital is able to spread revenue around and among services and to provide services to people and to needs that are not self-sustaining financially. We could lose that if we go back to the cottage industry approach, the network of strategic allies. But hopefully the government would step in and would make it worth someone's time and effort to provide those services that otherwise would not be provided. That is, in part, the role of government in society, to promote the general well-being of people, of citizens. Concerning the nonprofits, gee, the time seems to be moving quickly. Let me go to the next one.